boy, a lot of people online have been having a very, very difficult time lately. Even within the goth community on YouTube, we've had people just completely disappear and never come back who were once a staple of the goth community on YouTube. We've had infighting in the goth community. We have had some good reasons people aren't around as much, such as it's Black Friday having a baby. But yeah, just it's a little bit in shambles right now. So I thought it might be nice to come up with a happier, kind of lighthearted, fun goth video. I haven't done a goth video on this channel for a little while, and that was originally what this channel was supposed to be, was a goth channel, until I completely derailed it. But I feel like our community could use a little bit of fun. So I was trying to come up with an idea, and I was like, well, I could do the old goth tag for YouTube, but as I was looking back through it, I realized it's kind of dated at this point, and I think I once did it at some point earlier in my channel anyway. Just about everyone has done the traditional goth tag for YouTube, so I thought it could use a little bit of updating. So what I did was I sat down with my cute little kitty journal, and I wrote out a list of goth-centric questions that I thought would be kind of fun for people to answer, and it's a little more updated and makes a little more sense for today's goth. So think of this list as a favorites and least favorite goth things. Number 1. Favorite goth band or bands. I feel like a lot of people would automatically want to default to either The Cure or Bauhaus, and of course they're amazing staples of the goth subculture. But if we're going by who I listen to most frequently, it's got to be Sisters of Mercy, which is probably kind of a cliche at this point, but they just make me happy. Their music is what gets stuck in my head the most often. They're kind of my go-to goth band. But quickly kind of tailing them is a more recent band, and this is one of those areas where sometimes there's some argument within the goth subculture, and it's whether or not a new band can be a goth band, because although when you look up the definition of what makes a goth band goth, a lot of it comes down to the music and singing style. A lot of people also argue if it didn't get created during the era where most goth music got created, it can't be a goth band. However, Long Night, I have been so pleasantly surprised by just how much that band can send me flying back in time to all the old classic goth bands that you would have heard in the clubs. So yeah, I'd say probably those two are my favorite goth bands as of right now. Number 2. What are your favorite goth songs? If it's Long Night, it has to be The Nights Ablaze. That's an excellent one for your stereotypical goth dancing. It definitely feels like you should be partying in a cemetery and doing your little slow swing back and forth to it. And if it's Sisters of Mercy, that's actually a hard one, because with them, it kind of depends on my mood that day, but I think probably either Lucretia, My Reflection, or This Corrosion. Pretty classic songs from them. Number 3, favorite goth style. I know this one might be a point of contention for some people, because a lot of people don't like the fact that people create subcultures under the goth umbrella that are based off of the look. But let's be honest, if somebody was just wearing a football shirt, some jeans, and claimed that they loved listening to The Cure, would you automatically peg them as a goth? Probably not. It is first and foremost and always a music subculture, a music-based subculture. However, I think that if we really want to be honest with ourselves, we have to admit that the style does play a big part in it as well. I understand people saying that it can't just be the style and that you have to enjoy the music as well to truly be a goth and not just a darkly inclined person. But I do think that we're not being terribly honest with ourselves if we try to say it's only about the music. So I think personally, I like the more witchy goth aesthetic. I'm not talking about things like new goth. I'm talking about people like Saikara on Instagram who have this like forest witch thing going on, but they're also kind of gothy looking. You would think that they were a more gothic person if you met them in person. I just think that's such a beautiful style, kind of taking elements of witchcraft and elements of just dark and spooky and squishing them together. And of course, I adore the original 80s trad goth as well. It's just beautiful on everyone. It's very gender neutral as well. Number 4, favorite goth brand. This is one of those updates I wanted to discuss a little bit because back when the original goth tag was created, there weren't that many goth brands that were mainstream yet, and now pretty much everyone knows Killstar, Punk Rave, Devil Knight, Creepsville, Dark in Love, just so many of these wonderful, amazing brands, and they all cater to different styles of goth aesthetics, which is wonderful. I know when places like Killstar first came onto the scene and started making waves in the subculture, a lot of people were kind of upset about it because of the fact that people were just kind of wearing the style and not appreciating where goth originated from. And I also know that people were getting frustrated by the fact that the DIY era had kind of died out with places like Killstar and that everyone more or less looked the same. But I've actually spoken to elder goths since then, including my own aunt who was there when the subculture originated, and they've all told me the same thing, that had there been stores like Killstar and like Punk Rave when the goth scene first emerged, they would have all been buying those places out. They'd be spending every paycheck they had on these stores. That the only reason they DIY'd back then is because it was the only option they had. And on top of that, what you have to understand is that not everyone is able to DIY their goth items. Not everyone has the financial means, not everyone has the physical ability or just the general know-how, and I don't think there's anything wrong with going out and buying something. And I think that now we have a diverse enough group of brands out there that people are looking a little bit less samey, but just instead of getting upset when you see like 5 goths in a row that have something like Killstar on, maybe be happy that it's reaching a wider audience and making it so the subculture doesn't die out, or be happy because it means that all those people enjoy a similar aesthetic and will more likely get along with each other. I think it's a little bit more positive than people have given it credit for being. That being said, Killstar is not my favorite goth brand. My favorite goth brand is what I'm wearing right now, Rogue and Wolf, and in some ways it kind of hits that witchy goth aesthetic that I enjoy, but it has a lot of this, stars and moons, celestial stuff going on, and I just think it's really cool and really pretty, and it's super cozy and comfy and just fun to wear because almost all their stuff has these thumb holes so everything goes over your hand, and I just like how all their stuff looks. If I had thousands upon thousands of dollars to my name right now, I'd probably buy out their entire store. Number 5. Favorite goth influencer. This one is a little bit on the sad side, and I'm going to come right now and apologize in advance that I may not say the correct surname for this person anymore, but it's Riri Phillips. I've always thought she's just such a kind-hearted person. Just the energy she gave off in all of her videos made me feel like if I saw her at a club, or if I saw her at like Mariluna or something, I could just approach her and start talking to her, and she'd be a very welcoming person. Her makeup skills were amazing. She was wonderful at teaching people who were newer to the goth scene, who weren't really sure where they fit, different styles of makeup to try, to find who they were. She had wonderful story times, good and bad, about being a goth parent and just goth out in public, and how sometimes she would get treated really nicely and sometimes she'd be treated absolutely horribly, like she was like harming her child just by being goth and stuff. And I just thought her honesty was wonderful. She was also very open about her mental health struggles, The reason I'm saying is she hasn't updated her YouTube account in quite a long time. Last time I saw, she ended up breaking up with her partner, I believe, and that it wasn't a very amicable breakup. It was really hard on her, and he did some really bad stuff to her, which is why I said I'm really sorry. I know she's not a Phillips anymore, so I mean no disrespect, just I only found out about that information through like one interview someplace, and I have yet to be able to find it again, so I cannot remember what she goes by anymore. But feel free to let me know in the comments, because I don't want to accidentally cause any harm, but it's definitely Riri. Number 6, favorite goth celebrity. When I was younger, I would have said Helena Bonham Carter all the way. I do still like her quite a lot, but I can't consider her my absolute favorite goth celebrity. That one goes to Cassandra Peterson for a myriad of reasons. She's kind, she's humble, she's an amazing actor, she's an amazing personality, and she's queer. There's literally nothing I can think of that I don't like about the woman. It's gotta be Elvira all the way, forever. Number 7, favorite goth hangout. Now with favorite goth hangout, I have to say this is one of those silver linings I've experienced as a result of the pandemic, because I have gone to goth clubs before, but it's extremely difficult for me to do so because most of them are not wheelchair accessible. I haven't been able to be around like-minded people because of that. However, since lockdown had happened and club nights couldn't happen, a lot of people took to Zoom to do goth club night. And some of them, even if they've been able to reopen, have continued that tradition of like Friday or Saturday night goth night on Zoom. And I'm loving it. I'm finally able to do a club night where I can listen to music I enjoy, be around people I enjoy, meet people, see people who are similar to me, and feel like I'm part of a community, because outside of the confines of the internet, I haven't gotten to have that, not since I was like in my early 20s, and it wasn't a very good experience because there was only so much I could do, and I was in the goth club. I was kind of confined to one level and barely even any of that. So it's been amazing being able to participate in a goth club night that doesn't involve me having to call ahead someplace or wonder whether or not I can actually physically get through the building. Number 8, favorite spooky item that you own. That's an easy one for me. This is something that I saw on a couple of websites a few years ago, and I've been pining away at it ever since. And this past December, my partner actually found it in this little tiny shop, and I was so excited when she gave it to me. This guy. I don't even know if you can consider it spooky, but they have like a little collection of these little kitties of different kinds, and they have little owls, and they're just the cutest things on the planet. They make me so happy. And when we do move house, I'm planning on putting this gorgeous shelf behind me where I film, and putting these little guys all over it so that they can just be part of the video. Now for the 2 least favorite. Least favorite thing about being a goth. I'd say it's the fact that if you present in a spookier fashion, so to speak, and you go out in public, if you do have anything else physically going on with you, for example, if I'm out and about in my wheelchair and someone decides to be nasty to me, they decide to say something ableist to me, or they decide to try to ask me invasive questions. Typically speaking, when I try to vent about that to people who are not goth in my life later on, they tend to tell me things like, well, what do you expect when you look like that anyway? You have to just assume that people are gonna approach you. And I'm like, no, No, I don't care if I had an entire eagle on my head right now. I don't care if my eyes were shooting laser beams out of them. It doesn't matter what someone else looks like out in public. Leave them alone. If they haven't approached you, don't bother them. Say hello, be polite, be cordial if you want to, but there's no reason and no excuse for you to treat someone like crap just because they look different. I know there's a time and a place. If I'm trying to go, to like certain public spaces where it's not appropriate to be this extreme, I will tone it down. But if I'm just going to go to the park and hang out and, make some videos or something, I should be able to look however I want to look. I'm not hurting anyone. I generally try to stay to my own space. It's not an invitation for people to ask me questions about other aspects of my life. Least favorite thing about the subculture as a whole, honestly, it's the fact that although the internet has allowed the goth movement to stay alive, and I believe that it could have easily died out had we not all found each other here, it's also caused some damage because for as much as people on YouTube love to talk about elitism, the only place I've really experienced true goth elitism is online. And it's usually people my age, people who weren't even alive when the goth subculture began, who are sitting here trying to gatekeep what it is, what it's not, what you can like, what you can't like, what is real goth, what isn't real goth. And I'm like, then those same people harp about it when no one's goth anymore. And I'm like, well, you're not exactly doing much to keep your subculture alive now, are you? If you're saying you're trying to dictate how another goth lives their life, just live and let live. Let people listen to what they want to listen to. Let people look the way they want to look. You don't get to dictate how someone else wants to identify themselves. It's not killing you if someone only likes 3 goth bands, looks kind of spooky, and wants to call themselves a goth. It's not going to be the end of the world if they don't listen to Bauhaus or they don't know every single Susie Sue song. I think that a lot of us online need to chill quite a bit if we want our subculture to have any hopes of not dying out, because frankly, we're probably scaring away the younger generation. And that's the thing that I hate the most about the subculture, just the fact that there is rampant elitism and gatekeeping in it, and people trying to dictate whether or not someone else is enough. A lot of us have already been ostracized by the communities around us throughout our life because we present in a different way or because we enjoy things that are considered to be abnormal. We don't need to also experience that stuff within our own subculture. And again, as much as I do think, if you truly believe you're a goth, then you're a goth. Those of us who are in like our 20s and 30s who were not alive, or at least not old enough when the subculture first came about to be going to the Bat Cave and stuff, we need to kind of get off our high horse and understand that we are not the authority on what is and isn't goth. That's all for tonight. I hope that you guys had fun, and I encourage anyone who wants to go ahead and do this newer, more updated tag as well. Hopefully it brought a little more joy to our little subculture online. I will be dropping the questions in the description box below. And as always, do something that makes you happy today, as long as you're not hurting anyone else, and I'll see all of you again soon.